new communities also.
Yep. Just one more second for this to go. There we go. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending upon where in the world you are. And that, of course, is the appropriate greeting for today's conversation over coffee. I'm Reb Steve Wernick, one of the rabbis at Bet Tzedek congregation in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I am talking today with one of my very, very dear good friends, and that is true, Rabbi Mauricio Balter, who's coming to us live. Are you in Modin or are you in Jerusalem at the moment?
At this moment, in Modin.
At this moment, he's coming to us. That's right. It's late in the day already. You're home. He's coming to us live from his home in Modi'in, Jerusalem. And you can see in his background a picture of Modi'in. It looks a little bit different than when the Maccabees were roaming the hills of Modi'in. Rabbi Balter is the CEO of both the Masorti Olami of the worldwide conservative movement, which is outside of North America and Israel, and of MERCAZ Olami, which is the worldwide Zionist party of the conservative movement. We're going to talk about both of those things. First of all, Mauricio, buenas noches.
Oh, buenas tardes.
Baruch haba, erev tov.
We can do this in Spanish. Will you better
Well, you can do it in Spanish, in which case you should just ask yourself the question.
Okay.
But let's start with Masorti Olami. Certainly most North Americans, I think, are not totally aware that the conservative movement is a worldwide movement, that not only are we in North America, in the United States and Canada predominantly, but that in Israel, we've grown by leaps and bounds. And I know that's Masorti Israel, but we can talk about that a little bit as well. Well, in fact, I mean, I'm just going to say, people might not know that there are now some 80 kehilot, 80 communities in Israel that are meeting on a regular basis. We have a seminary in Machon Shechter, and also graduate schools in Machon Shechter. We have a kibbutz, Hanaton. We have a youth movements, Noam, and young adult movements, Marom. And the conservative movement also has a Fuchsburg Jerusalem Center in the heart of Jerusalem. And some estimates now are that 8 to 10% of the Israeli population self-identify as conservative or reform, which is doubled in the last decade, last 15 years. And all of the data seems to show that the vast majority of Israelis believe that the conservative Masorti movement should have greater representation, greater rights, and even funding, according to the government. Whether or not this new government will actually come through with any of that remains to be seen. But that's a conversation for Rakefet Ginsburg of the Masorti movement, right? Okay. So between North America and Israel, there are 1.7 million. 1.4 million self-identified conservative Jews. And then outside of those two centers, there's about another 500,000 self-identified conservative Jews. Mauricio, where are they? Where do we find Jews? Where do we find conservative Masorti Jews outside of Israel and North America?
I will change the question. Where do you want to find conservative Jews? We will see, I will share with you a map, and we can see a little about this. This is our office. Here is the office of Masorti Olami. Great. Okay. This is Latin America. We are the mainstream of Judaism in Latin America. We have 82 communities, 5 MERCAZ chapters, 18 Noam Olami chapters, because the youth movement is an international youth movement. 7 Marom chapters, that is for young adults, And one rabbinical school where I study is in Buenos Aires, the Seminario Rabínico Latinoamericano. Marshall Mayer is the name. And we are the mainstream, especially in Argentina, in Chile. We are the mainstream of the Judaism.
You know, that's true in Canada too. The conservative movement is the mainstream in Canada as well. Interestingly, followed by Orthodox and then Reform.
Also in Latin America, the Reform is not so strong in Latin America.
It's interesting.
It's interesting, yes. Absolutely, yes, right. Oh, where we are, yes, Europe. We have 40 communities in Europe, 4 MERCAZ chapters, 7 Noam Olamit chapters, 6 Marom chapters, and 1 rabbinical school that is the younger between the 5 rabbinical schools that we have around the world, including 2 in the United States and 1 in Israel. We have 1 in Buenos Aires, and the 5th is in Berlin, Germany, Frankel's rabbinical school. That is the younger, very moving. When I was the first graduation of this rabbinical school in Berlin, with all the context, was very, very strong.
Where are the larger populations of Masorti Jews in Europe, and where's the growth taking place right now?
The major population is in England, from my understanding. It's a very strong Masorti UK is the name. We have a very strong structure, very big communities in London, especially from Jeremy Widerholm, that is a very, very big community, North New London Synagogue. This is the best example, also the organization, the structure, not only the communities. As a Masorti movement, they are very organized. You know, the executive director is Matt Plain, Dr. Matt Plain, and he's doing a wonderful activities. We are weak in some places in Europe, and we are working very hard, especially what was the East Europe. Yes, the East Europe, we begin later to work. And you will see when we move to FSU, you will see that we have here FSU, and we have 6 communities, 2 MERCAZ chapters, 4 Noam Olamit chapters, but we don't have a Marom chapters yet, and rabbinical school. In Ukraine, that is very close to Europe, we developed in the last years a project together with Mahon Schechter Institute, and we sent a rabbi that is an emissary, a shaliach, Rabbi Reuven Stamov, and he created Masorti Ukraine. He began at the Chabad style. We sent a rabbi to create the community, and now we have 5 communities in Ukraine. One with in the last time they receive a new building and very strong communities. It's very interesting. Now we receive Africa. We have in Africa 10 communities, Noam Olami chapters, and 1 Marom chapter, where we have a Noam and Marom. In Uganda, Abayudaya is a very strong community with 2,000 Jews. Very interesting. You see, very close to Uganda, we have a new community in Kenya. That is students that come to Uganda to study, and they convert to Judaism also. And we have a new community of students in Kenya. Australasia, we have 7 communities, biggest in Australia, absolutely. We have in Sydney and in Melbourne, We have a very interesting community, 65 years old in Tokyo, that is a conservative community. We have a MERCAZ chapter in Australia, MERCAZ Olami chapters in Australia, no rabbinical school, but it's very, very, very interesting. If you see all our map of Masorti Olami, this is our map. 145 communities, 16 MERCAZ chapters, 31 Noam Olami chapters, 14 Marom chapters, and 2 rabbinical schools. And this is interesting because it's a new development of the movement, and we have a lot of new asking. The last community in Europe that we built is in Warsaw, that is in Poland. Yes, it's a new community. And now we're receiving asking for a new minyan in Vienna, in Austria, in Vienna. And this is in Europe. And the community that is begin to check if they want to join to us is in Taiwan, Jewish community in Taiwan. Very nice community, very active community. But I can tell you,
it's mostly in Taiwan, though. It's mostly expats, right? I mean, those are North Americans and Israelis, I would imagine.
Yes, that they stay, and yes, absolutely. Yeah. Also in Tokyo. In Tokyo, the majority is American people that come
for business
or for business and stay, right. And it's changing all the time. The rabbi tell me that the people is for 4 or 5 years in Tokyo, and they return to the United States, and new people come for business. But it's an incredible Jewish world. In each place, you discover the same idea with different melodies, with different tastes, with different culture. When you sit in Kabbalat Shabbat in Buenos Aires, is with a Latin American music, is very different than the Kabbalat Shabbat in Uganda with African music. The text, the Sidur is the same text. The idea, the egalitarian, the perception, the Masorti perception is the same. But how they feel, they live this Judaism is different in each place around the world.
So one of the things that's fascinating is that we talk about how conservative Judaism seems to be under stress in North America. And it's been in decline, certainly in the United States for the last 30 years. But yet it's growing outside of North America. How do you understand that?
Wait, I will stop the share. Again, the question, sorry, I was checking something.
How do you understand? So in North America, especially in the United States, conservative Judaism has been in decline for several decades now. Decline, also transformation. I've always found it interesting that the pundits are talking about a post-denominational world, but yet they still measure success by denominational affiliation. So it's like, how could we be post-denominational and still measuring by something that is post? So, but in terms of whole numbers of people affiliating with conservative synagogues and self-identifying with the denominational label, in North America, that's been in decline. But outside of North America, it's been growing. So yes. How do you understand that?
Two explanations. In some places, the Masorti movement is new for the people. It's a new possibility to be connected with their Judaism. East Europe, in some places of Europe, they didn't know how is a Masorti synagogue, a Masorti perception of Judaism. And for this, I think that it's very important that we have local rabbinical schools where the people that will lead communities, they know the local culture, they can adapt and to be the the intermediate between the Masorti Judaism and the local culture. This is in some places. In other places, I think that the people is tired for another streams in the Judaism, and they are searching for new possibilities in their identity, in how they live their Judaism, in places where the people try to find something different. This is give us another possibility, and the people try. I think that the searching about the new identities, where the Masorti movement is not so known for the people, this give another possibility, and the people come, ask, and live a different Judaism. This is the two possibilities, from my understanding.
And they do so on a shoestring budget. What would be some of the, when you look around the world and you look at the opportunities for growth and development, if money were no object, what would be the top 3 things that you'd want to give those communities to help them grow?
Oh, very good question. One, training more rabbis and educators, because one of our big problems today is human resources in some places around the world. This is the first one. The second one is to send emissaries, the same model that we have in Ukraine. In some places, we can put people, rabbis, or educators inclusive, that they can teach about what is Masorti Judaism. I am sure, promise you, that it will be 3-4 times the amount of communities that we have today in each place.
But language is important in that regard, though, right? I mean, whoever you send has to speak the local language, has to be fluent in it, I would imagine.
I say, first of all, training, human resources. After this, we need money to put this human resources that is local. I say that I begin with the importance of the local rabbinical schools. Yes, in Europe, in Latin America, maybe sometimes we will need something for the Russian speakers that we don't have today. That is important. And this is first. Second, third one, a lot of activities to bring the people to Israel. For our movement, the relationship or the component of Israel in their identity is very important for us as a movement. As these 3 parts, human resources, the educators and rabbis, emissaries to each place, a relationship, very strong relationship with Israel. This is where I will put the millions that rise for me.
That's a good transition to the second kippah that you wear, which is MERCAZ Olami. What people may not be aware of is that when Herzl created the first Zionist Congress, they've been continuing to meet, and it functions as a parliament of the Jewish people. And depending upon the strength of the mandates that the different political parties to the Zionist Congress gain, has an impact on their representation on the national institutions of the Jewish people, which are Karen Kayemet L'Yisrael, JNF in Israel, the WZO, the World Zionist Organization, the Jewish Agency for Israel, and
Karen Hayasod.
And Karen Hayasod, which is the federation movement outside of the United States and Canada. Canada kind of sits in both camps, JFNA and Karen Hayasod. Why is that so important to have more representation on these institutions?
I can tell you, first of all, this is the place where all the Zionist Jews around the world, we meet to discuss some issues about the Judaism, the Jewish people around the world. This is not happening in other places. It's in the national institutions. We sit around the table in the WZO, that was the first, the World Zionist Organization was the first one. We sit all the factions that they care about Israel, about the Jewish people, and we discuss together about these issues. I can tell you from yesterday. Yesterday, we have a meeting of the ANALA, the directory of the WZO. I bring my concern about what happened in Chile. That is a very big problem. Chile, I don't know if you know, but in Chile is the second big community of Palestinians outside of Israel around the world. 500,000 Palestinians in Chile. And the community is they feel a very, very big threat about how the relationship between these two communities. Only 15,000 Jews. All the WZO, we come to support this community. And this is not caring they are Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, or Secular. All the factions together, they're asking for me to be the coordinator to help to Chile community, Chile Jewish community. This is the
what kind of help would the WZO bring?
Oh, we are checking about, we are learning what happened with them and how we can help, but more Jewish education, more possibilities, materials to explain to the people, to teach them how to lobby with the government about these issues, and to give support, to give them the feeling that they are not alone around the world. This is not, I talked with one of our presidents, we have a baby communities, and he told me today, I am so happy that you talk with me about this. This is changed all my feelings with the situation today in Chile. Wow. And we will try to support and to help. I don't know, I told him, we can resolve your problems. We can be with you to support you and to give all the resources that you need for this situation. This is the first one. All the Jewish people together sit around the table. The second one is about the decisions that we make in these places. Without our voice, the liberal movements, the Masorti movement, the Reform movement, in Israel, we have an electoral system that the Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox, it's not Orthodox today so much, it's the ultra-Orthodox people have a very big input, and they change the color of the decisions. And our presence in these places influenced in these decisions. First one is budgets. We don't receive budget for the Masorti movement in Israel or around the world from the state of Israel, from the government, and we receive from the national institutions money for help with the youth movement around the world, for the development of the Masorti movement in Israel, for bringing people to some programs in Israel. This is very, very, very important. And the four is, from my understanding, is an ideological point that is all of four national institutions. They are the expression of this Zionism of the Jewish people around the world. And this is very important also. This is for my understanding, the important reasons that we need to be present in these four national institutions and be active, not only presence. And this is important that the number of our representatives will reflect how many people we have really in the field, in different places around the world. We talk about 1.7 million of Masorti Jews around the world. This is a very big number for the Jewish people. We need to be represented in this national institution in this proportion.
How much money do we receive annually from the institutions?
Something else of $3 million.
And obviously it's not enough. It's 3 million out of several $100 million worth of budget from all those organizations.
No, Keren Kayam and TNF have a budget of today almost 2 billion shekel a year. Only KKL, 2 billion shekel.
Yeah.
Okay, only KKL. And we receive a small portion. If we become more representatives, we need to understand some numbers. At the last election in MERCAZ USA, we received 15,000 votes. 15,000 votes.
Which was significantly more than we received the election before.
50% more.
Right.
Than the election in 2015.
Right.
50% more.
Yeah.
But we are talking about 15,000 votes for conservative movement in the United States.
Out of almost 900,000 people. So it's
this is the point.
Yeah.
This is not reflected. This is the relationship between the people that we have in the communities, and our representation don't have proportion. It's not a proportion. But we need to be represented in this national institution. This is very good for us. And you will see in this period that we have a vice chairman in the KKL, vice chairman in WZO, and we have a very strong team to working together. This is a very different feeling, and you will feel this in the communities all the time, the changes that is coming.
How does this new government reflect an opportunity for the Masorti movement, the new Israeli government, reflecting an opportunity for the Masorti movement?
It's a big opportunity. Do you know very well, because you met a very important numbers of the hits of these parties that they are in the government. And we are very, very optimistic about the possibility to work with them. We have very close friends in this government. Yair Lapid from Yesh Atid was our partner in the last period in the national institutions. Also, Kahol Lavan is very close to us. And inclusive, I want to tell you that Naftali Bennett, the Prime Minister, when he was the Minister of Diaspora, he opened the Convention of the Rabbinic Assembly. Was the first time in the history of Israel of a Ministry of the Diaspora come to talk to the Convention of the Rabbinic Assembly in Jerusalem.
Yeah, and his office was always open to us when we wanted to talk to him.
Yes. And do you know that in his childhood, he was a member of our community in Haifa, in Moria.
Right.
After this, he changed stream.
He got a smaller kippah.
He was very helpful also with the structure in the equalitarian quarter.
Right.
He built in his time this structure. And we are optimistic. Also, the Minister of Diaspora today, Nachman Shai, he's a good friend of us. And we hope this is a new point in his ministry, that is renewal Judaism. They will put money, they say, for liberal streams for the Judaism. Today, we don't receive from the diaspora ministry $1, no receive.
Yeah.
And we hope that it will be different. Also, I don't know, another important point, we have a member of our communities in the Knesset today.
Yeah, Alon Tal.
Alon Tal. Alon Tal was a member of a Maccabim, very close to Modi'in. He's a very active member of his community. His kids, they are in Noam, and he wants to be the voice of the Masorti movement in the Knesset.
He's also, very importantly, he's the founder of Israeli environmentalism.
Yes.
He's very, very important for the creation of an environmental movement and consciousness within Israel.
And for the first time, do you know that the Reform have a rabbi in the Knesset? That is Rabbi Gilad Khalif. Do you know him very well? And this will change the voice of the liberal movements in the political.
How optimistic are you that this government is viable long term, even short term? More than Tuesday?
Don't will be easy. We in Israel hear the narrative of this government is so different than what we hear the last 12 years. And we hope that will be a long time working this government. We don't know. It's a very, very difficult coalition. It's not an easy coalition where you have MERCAZ that is very left, you have a Yemina that is very right, and you have in the center a lot of parties, and with the RAM that is an Arab traditional party. It's not easy. And the Likud, the opposition, they don't will be friendly. It's not only opposition. They become enemies of this coalition, and they vote against laws that they can help and protect to Israel only for produce damage to this government.
Unfortunately, that's indicative of a lot of the political chaos that's happening in countries all around the world.
You are right. This is a very, very interesting changing about what is the political leadership around the world, and something's changing, not for good, I must say. But
to be optimistic, though, the Israeli government does represent the diversity of the Jewish people and of Israelis, and if they can find a way to unify themselves, that would be good for the country.
And we have a strong state. Think about this. The last 2 years, we don't have national budget approved for the Knesset. We don't have a good government working because was a lot of problems inside the government. But we in this time we had the corona and the war with Hamas. And we are living, and we continue, and we are optimistic. This is the nature of Israeli people.
Right. So the takeaways for today's conversation, and Mauricio, obviously we need to talk more about this. The takeaways are, first and foremost, that the Masorti conservative movement is worldwide. It's about 1.7, 1.8 self-identified million people. It's growing outside of North America. It's growing in Israel, and it's growing elsewhere. MERCAZ, which I know that those of us at Bethesda, we see it as a voluntary checkoff on our annual dues statement, annual contribution statement. MERCAZ is very, very important. The more people register and support MERCAZ, the greater our representation as a movement in the WZO, the greater our ability to put our people in significant leadership positions of the national institutions, and to input and influence the budgets, not just for our programs for our own self-need, but because our programs meet the needs and the vision and mission of these institutions, which is to deepen Jewish identity, deepen the Zionist relationship with Israel, deepen the global network of the Jewish people. And so the more we can do that, the stronger the Jewish people will be worldwide, and the stronger will Israel be, because it has those resources. So that's the takeaway. If you've been wondering what MERCAZ is and why it's important, your vote for MERCAZ adds to our movement's ability to influence the agenda of the national institutions and to provide more budget so that we can continue to grow around the world, including the possibility of regrowth in North America. I'm an insider, so it's like, for those,
I
to be
want to thank you
transparent.
because you are very involved and supporting all
Yeah.
the time, and you are one of our leaders really in this issue, also in the national institutions. Thank you very much for all your support, your time, your energy, your thinking. We are
Well,
blessed that you are with us.
I'm pleased to continue to be able to do that in this role from Bet Tzedek. I'm very, very grateful that I'm part of a congregation that sees its role as a global role and not just a local one. So thank you, Mauricio. I want to wish you an Erev Tov. I want to thank everyone for following us. Just one announcement. Tomorrow night, the 22nd, as part of our Pride Month celebrations and support, we have a wonderful program with Aviva Chernik, Creatives in Conversation. Please be sure to check our website, www.beth-tzedec.org, for information about the program and for registration, which is required in order to get the Zoom link. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a wonderful day.